Hey guys, so in the last video we were learning about what soil is and what materials go into soil. And remember we learned that we have rocks, humus, air, water, and we're going to talk today about what are the different types of soil. So those include sand, silt, humus, loam, and clay. Now I know that you know at least one of these words, sand, right? You guys all know what sand is. If you've ever been to the beach, ever been to a playground that has a little sand pit, if you've ever made a sand castle, you know what sand is. So sand is actually a type of soil. It has the biggest grains in soil. The sandy soil will pack together when it's wet. If you guys have ever gone to the beach and you have wet sand, it's a lot thicker. It sticks together. You can make it into like little balls of sand. You can use it to make a sand castle like you see up here. It kind of sticks together. But then once it dries, it's more crumbly and it has a little, it like falls apart a little bit more because the water will drain through it. If you've ever poured water on top of sand, you can kind of see it going down into it and you can see it drying really quickly. That's because the grains are big, and when they're big, there's a lot more space for the water to go through. And the sandy soils that you see are normally dry. So if a soil is really sandy, it's dry, plants probably aren't going to grow super well in them. Another one is silt. Silt has more medium-sized grains. So we remember with the sand, the pieces are bigger. Sand is actually made up of tiny little minerals and rocks and grains, whereas silt is a little bit smaller. The actual grains and pieces that make it up, the tiny little pieces that make up silt, are a little bit smaller than sand, but still like a medium size. Now these, when they are wet, feel very soft and velvety. So you would actually, if you put them in your hand, it would feel really soft. If you can kind of see this picture up here, you can kind of see that his hand looks like it's more soft. It's not liquidy, but it's more velvety. It holds water really, really well. If you can see in this picture, you see water collected on top of it. The water stays in it or on top of it instead of going through it. With the sand, the water will go down, absorb into it, whereas with the silt, the smaller the pieces, the water's not really going to go through it very well. It's going to kind of stay in it or stay right on top of it, as you can see in this picture. All those little jagged pieces you see right there, those are all water on top of the silt. Another one we talked about was humus. Now we talked about humus yesterday and how it's a main part of soil. It comes from dead plants and animals that have decayed. Remember we talked about how decay means that the animals or plants that died start to break down, decompose, and their nutrients go into the soil, into this humus. And it contains many of the nutrients that help plants to grow. And remember, we talked about nutrients are what plants and animals need to survive. So we get nutrients from our food, and this humus adds nutrients to the soil where plants grow, and we either eat the plants, say we eat a pineapple, you know I wanted to, or there's grass that cows might eat, and you use cow meat to make beef, then to make tacos. Mexican food, represent. So you use the nutrients in the soil to survive. Plants and animals need this humus, need this nutrients to survive. So this is actually the part of soil, the type of soil where plants are going to grow the best because it has the most nutrients, the best place for them to live and to survive and thrive and grow. The next kind we have is loam. Now, loam is actually a mixture of the other types of soils we just talked about. It's a good mix of sand, silt, clay, and humus. So what that means is it's all these different types of soil mixed together in a big mixture, kind of like Chex Mix. You have lots of different mixes of like maybe pretzels and M&Ms. I only eat the M&Ms when I eat it, just saying. You wouldn't want to eat this loam, but it is a mixture of all of these different types of soil. So crops and garden plants grow best in loam soil because it holds water more than sand alone. Remember, we talked about sand, the water will just kind of go through, so it doesn't really hold well in there. It drains better than silt or clay, so it doesn't sit on top of it like it would with silt or clay. We're going to talk about clay in just a second. And it has more nutrients because of the humus. So it's all of these different things all together, and the humus that we talked about has the nutrients in it, and those nutrients help the plants to grow. So loam is actually, when you go to say you go to Lowe's or Walmart and you want a bag of mixed soil to grow plants, say your mom wants to plant a garden, you're going to buy loam to help your garden grow. And that's what you're going to put down or put in your pot to grow a plant. Clay, which we kind of mentioned earlier, is in the mix with the loam, but clay has the smallest particles of soil. Remember, we talked about sand was the biggest particles. Then we had silt were the medium-sized particles. Clay has really small particles, little pieces making it up. And the topsoil has very tiny grains that clump together with very little space between them. So the tiny, tiny particles will pack together really, really tightly, and water does not drain well through it. So water's just gonna kind of sit on top of it. It's not gonna drain down into it like it would with sand. And when it is wet, it's really sticky. Now people use clay because it's sticky you can make pots out of it. If you've ever seen clay pots, clay cups, clay plates, they use it on a potter's wheel to make different shapes out of the clay because it's sticky, so you can kind of mold things into it like you would, say, with Play-Doh. So those are the different types of soil. And tomorrow, or in the next video, we're going to be talking about what are the main layers of soil. So we have the topsoil, the subsoil, the large layers of rock, and then the bedrock. And we're going to be talking about what those different layers are with what we know about clay, loam, humus, and silt, and what soil is. So your job is to read the next page of the soil book and then do your little exit ticket project. All right, thanks guys. See you in the next video.